How was everybody's night last night? Get some sleep, rest, stay warm. I was just talking people camping in tents and campers and hotels. It's awesome. I'm glad we have all those options here. So this woman right here, you were born and raised in Turkey.
I was mostly raised in America, but I was
Born in Turkey. From the time I met Sev, gosh, it's been 5 years ago maybe, we had this instant kind of telepathic communication of a connection, and that was over a Zoom podcast. Yeah, when I was interviewing you. And there was a weird thing that happened. Dr. Leo Sprinkle had hypnotized me for an hour and a half, and something came through that hypnosis, and there were some words that were said, well-oiled machines, and I'm interviewing Sev, and she had a similar experience, and she used those exact words, well-oiled machine, and I was like, oh my gosh. So Sev is an experiencer. She looks at consciousness, and I believe that's such an important piece to all of this. She's a good friend. She's a lovely person. I just think the world of her. So please welcome Sev Talk. We're going to learn so much from her.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here so early on a Sunday morning. I'm very grateful that you're here and that you're interested in what I'm going to talk about, which is ET Contact and the messages that the ETs give the humans. I am going to tell you about just a few of my own personal ET Contact stories, and then I'm going to share with you ET Contact stories by experiencers who came to me looking for support, and I am going to tell you their stories through their own artwork. My first conscious memories of ET Contact started at age 10, and it continued a couple years until I was 12. I would go to sleep at night, and in the middle of the night, I would wake up, and I would find myself standing outside on grass, and there would be a spaceship coming. And I'd be so happy, because I felt like I was being reunited with someone that I loved. And it would hover right over me, and it was so big that I couldn't see the sky. And it would land, and these legs would come out, and a door would open, and stairs would come down, and this being would walk down to greet me. And this is very close to what he looked like. He looked more human than non. He had dark hair. He was pretty young. He had dark clothes. The only difference I saw were the tips of his ears. They were slightly elongated. And back then, I was not into Dr. Spock at all. And I don't remember exactly what he said to me, and I don't remember boarding the ship. All I remember is that he was checking up on me. He was making sure that I was okay. And it was a very loving, very safe experience. So this continued for a couple of years, so many times that I lost count. But then there was the last time when I was 12. And this time, I was with a group of kids. And I had never been with kids before. And we were lined up, and we were watching the ship fly away. And we were really sad, because we knew that we wouldn't see him again. And that's when I heard in my head, you have a job to do, get to work. And at age 12, I had no idea what that meant. So every time after one of these experiences, I would ding, find myself back in my bedroom, and it was just like that, ding, fully alert. There's no grogginess, there's no sleepiness, no nothing. And I get emotional when I think about it. And I'd be really confused, because my bedroom did not feel real. What felt real was that being. And I would tell myself, you just have to forget about it, you have to ignore it, and you have to get dressed, and you have to go to 5th grade, and you have to act normal. And that's what I did pretty much my whole entire life. I could have told my parents, but I don't know why I didn't. My parents were very open-minded, and they taught me how to meditate when I was in 5th grade, and I played psychic games with my dad, and I have no answer as to why I didn't share it with them. And it would really cause me a lot of problems in life, the fact that I didn't share it, because up until 8 years ago, I really wondered if I was insane. So I'm originally from Istanbul, Turkey. I immigrated to Montreal, Canada with my parents, where my sister was born. And I was having a lot of paranormal and supernatural experiences that I pretty much kept to myself. I started 1st grade not knowing English. And I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area. All right, fast forward about 40 years, during which I graduated from Loyola University with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. And I had my own wholesale retail jewelry accessories business. I got married a couple times. I lived life, and I was constantly hiding everything that happened to me. And about 10 years ago, I met a gentleman who worked at the Navy Yard. And he was managing a testing of a new military defense system. And it was on the island of Kauai in Hawaii. And he said to me, I have to go to Hawaii. Why don't you live part-time on Capitol Hill and part-time in Hawaii? So that's what I did. So one time I was on Capitol Hill, and he called me, and he said, I have to go to the White Sands Missile Range. And I'm like, okay. He goes, why don't you meet me there, and I'll take you to Roswell. And that was very exciting. This came completely up out of the blue. And I met him in Texas, and we went to White Sands. Has anyone been there? Yeah, okay. So first we went to the national park, which was very, very beautiful. We slid down those dunes. This area was lakes and grassland about 12,000 years ago. It also has the oldest known human footprints, about 21 to 23,000 years ago. And then we went to the White Sands Missile Range, which is a very truly, truly creepy place. Has anyone been there? Okay. It's located at the base of a dark mountain, and the whole time I was there, in my mind's eye, I could see tunnels and rooms all under the ground, and I didn't like it at all. When we're done, I practically ran to the car, and I said, I never want to come back here again. So off we went to Roswell, and we spent the day at the museum, and then we went to our hotel room, and we were very tired, and I was watching TV, and I was wishing that the show People of Earth would come on. Has anyone ever seen the show People of Earth? Okay. So it's a very funny show that's produced by Conan O'Brien, and I knew that it wasn't on TV. I knew it was over. So he came out of the bathroom to tell me something, and I turned the TV off, and he said what he had to say, and I turned the TV back on, and before I even changed the channel, People of Earth came on. And I was like, whoa. So we watched it, we laughed, we went to sleep, and the next thing I know, my eyes pop open, and the room is pitch black, and I hear footsteps, and I hear him get into the bed, and I think to myself, why was he sitting on the couch? Was it because of the aliens? And I go back to sleep. So I get up in the morning, and while he's in the shower, I wonder, why did he think he was on the couch? Because he never gets up in the middle of the night and sits on the couch. And that's when all of a sudden I had this download of information. It was visual, and there was also knowledge. And evidently that night, I had been with a group of ETs, with a group of Greys, and I had been with them before. And they gave me information about the hybridization program. And when I went to sleep that night, I didn't know any of this. And they told me that millions of humans are involved. There's billions of embryos. The reason there is a Grey and hybridization program is because the Greys race was dying out because they lost the ability to be empathetic and sympathetic. And for the most part, they're hybridizing with people who are very loving and who have above average psychic abilities. There was also a galactic worry that maybe a negative group of beings might get these embryos, because there's billions of them, and turn them into killing machines. But I was told that these embryos are so loving that they would make horrible killing machines. So he comes out of the bathroom, and I ask him, did anything weird happen last night? And he goes, yeah. And I saw him struggle. As a bug just went in my eye. I saw him struggle. He's very, very logical. And he was very uncomfortable. I'm like, what happened? And he said, well, there was something in the room staring at us. And I couldn't go to sleep. So I got up a couple times to look for it, but I couldn't find it. But there was something in here staring at us. And so I went and I sat on the couch, and I watched you toss and turn and toss and turn, and I thought you were awake. So while I got this information, there's a drawing there, that's my drawing. I was reminded that I was shown a baby in a tube in 2012, where there were 3 Greys behind me, tall, medium, and short. And this is before I knew that the Greys even came in 3 sizes. So I told him what happened, and we were both really freaked out. We were both really uncomfortable. At that time, I didn't like the Greys. I thought they were messing with me because I was victimized by the entire experience. I had come in contact with them several times. And I didn't want to talk about it with anybody, and there was no way that my clients were going to know. I mean, that was just not going to happen. So I thought, when I go back to Capitol Hill, I'll be fine, everything will be okay. So I was not fine when I went back to Capitol Hill. It was stuck in my mind, and I could not let it go. But shortly after this experience, we moved. So this was my front yard on Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., and now I live here. This is my front yard. I live on the Inner Banks in North Carolina. This is the Neuse River. It's the widest river in America, and that's also part of the ICW, if anybody sails. It's the Intercoastal Waterway. I live in the sailboat capital of North Carolina. I like to sail. And it was the second night here that I made contact with the Greys again. I was in the kitchen unpacking dishes, and I felt something bite my butt, and it hurt. So I yelled over at him, I think something bit my butt. Will you look at it? And he goes, yeah. So I walk over to the living room and bend over, and I'm laughing because I think this is funny. And he's looking, and he's not saying anything. And I'm starting to get really nervous. And there's nothing. And intuitively, I knew something was wrong. So I'm like, well, did a bug bite me? And he said, yeah. And there's also a red X. So there was a red X on the left cheek of my tush. And when I ran my finger over it, I couldn't feel it at all. So we're both shocked, especially he. I knew intuitively that it was the Greys. And we're just looking at each other. And I said, okay, we're just going to pretend like this never happened. And he just looked at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, this, like, we never saw this. He goes, okay. Because that's what I did my whole entire life. I just ignored everything. So then, 9 days later, I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. And then 9 days later, I come to in my bedroom, ding, my eyes pop open. Once again, fully alert. It's like you're dropped from another dimension into 3D. And there's this download of visuals and information again. And this time, I was on a hospital bed. This is a graphic that's done by Steve Neal from Breaking the Silence. This is actually a shot from a video. And he has a little bit of artistic license here because the room I was in didn't have windows in the back like that. But I was on a hospital bed, and I was on my side, and I felt paralyzed. I couldn't move my arms, and I couldn't move my legs. And I sensed that there was something behind me, so I turned around, and that's when I saw that gray. And we made eye contact, and I looked right into its eyes. And I describe it like looking into two pools of black oil. And I was scared to death. And I didn't say anything, because all the other times that I had telepathic communication with them, all the other times I came in contact with them, there was always telepathic communication. But this time there was nothing. So that scared me even more. So I turned my head back around, and ding, I'm in my bedroom. And I'm like, oh no, God, if there's another X on me, I'm not going to be able to take it. Like, this is too much. So I get out of bed and I go downstairs and I'm waiting for him. And he always got up before I did, but not this time. And I'm waiting for him downstairs and I'm very, very scared. And yeah, I could have looked in the mirror, but I didn't want to see that X. So he comes downstairs and I asked him, did anything weird happen last night? And he goes, no. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, was I there the whole time? And he goes, yeah. I said, you didn't feel anything? He goes, no. So I told him what happened. And this time, there was a piece of information that I had never known in any of my other ET contacts. And when I was on that bed in that room, I was on the moon. So I told him that, and it's time for the $1 million question, will you look at my butt? So I bend over, and he's not saying anything, like nothing. And I'm getting really scared. And I'm like, well? He goes, yeah, there's another one. There's another red X. This time it's on your right cheek. So directly across the first one. I had an X on my left cheek and an X on my right cheek. And I have a picture of my total tush in my book. I don't like my total tush on big screens. So, so if you want to see it, you can look in the book. And we're both speechless. It's really hard to describe what that felt like because I had an existential crisis. Because in that moment, I realized, I'm getting emotional again, I realized I knew nothing. And all the ET contact I've had my whole entire life was real. It was not a dream. I didn't imagine it. And like I said back then, I didn't like the grays. I thought they were messing with me. I don't think like that anymore. And I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing talking to grays. I didn't know who we were as a human race. I knew nothing. It was like I was just floating in this void of nothing. And he asks me, how can I help you? I had no answer. I started to cry. So I calmed myself down, and for the first time in my life, I said, I need help. Never said that before. I knew I couldn't go through this by myself. But I had no idea who was going to help me because I was so afraid of the grays that I refused to watch any TV shows, read any books. The first time I saw the cover of Communion by Whitley Strieber, I just wanted to scream and run out of the room. And I had no idea if there was even anybody out there that helped experiencers. I didn't know how I was going to get help. So I decided I'm just going to let it organically happen. And then one day I'm watching Unacknowledged by Dr. Stephen Greer. And when it was over, it was like there was a fire lit inside of me. So I went to my computer and I said, I have to send a picture of this X to somebody. But I didn't know to whom. And I heard in my head, move on. And I'm like, what's that? And I Googled it, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a real thing. And on the website, I saw Kathleen Martin. And Kathleen Martin is a very famous UFO researcher, and the niece of Betty and Barney Hill. She's all over TV, all over documentaries. She's very well known. And I said to myself, she's the one that's going to help me. So I emailed her, and she responded right away. And she said, I've never seen an X like that before. And it was one of the most important conversations of my life. And we talked for about an hour and a half. And she validated everything. And I told her, what am I supposed to do with all the information the Greys have given me? Because they've given me a lot about the hybridization program, about the potential fate of mankind. And because in my mind's eye, I see myself talking on stage, which is wacko, because there's no way in hell I was going to tell anybody that I'm talking to aliens. And she said, Sev, I can't tell you what to do. You have to figure that out. I said, okay, well, there's one more issue. I'm afraid of the government. Because I heard the stories about the men in black coming and knocking on your door. I said, is it true? And she said, yeah, that's true. I'm like, oh, crap, okay. So we said goodbye, and I called my mom. And I had just told my mom my entire ET history shortly before I called Kathy. That was the first time I ever told my mom. And she was very supportive, and she was also afraid for me. So while I'm on the phone with my mother, it was a landline. It goes dead. And I'm like, crap. Like the government knows who I am. I'm like, here it goes. Like it started. It came back on about 10 minutes later. And then that night, I had my very first MILAB experience, which is military abductions. I've never heard anyone that had a happy MILAB story. MILAB is either neutral or it's horrible, and I've had both. And I've had about 5 or 6 that I can remember. That night, I was taken into this government office-like area, and there's always these young men there, like in these neutral colored clothes, and they're very neutral themselves. And one of the young men took me over to a poster. And the poster was the flight path of a UFO. And the man asks me, when does the spaceship reach its K point? And I have a science degree, but I didn't remember what K point is. And then, ding, I'm back in my room, I don't remember anything. So I looked up K point, and it's a real thing. I was watching the Winter Olympics, I was watching the ski jumping, and the announcer was talking about the skier's K point. It has to do with calculating distance. This is another one of my experiences. I've been in that room twice. This was a neutral experience. The second time was horrific. So in this one, a tall gray was brought in, and there was that young man standing next to me again. And he said to me, this is the original gray. And then that one was taken out, and then a shorter one was brought in. He said, that's the hybrid of the original. And then that one was taken out, and then a little one was brought in. And he said, they walked in. And he said, that is the hybrid of the original. And with each one, there was a loss of sentience. So the tiny one felt more robotic. About 3 months later, I woke up and I declared I'm writing a book. And I'm going to call it, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens. When I went to sleep that night, I had no intention of writing a book. I don't know what happened that night, but I woke up and I was driven to write it, and I wrote it. I wrote it pretty quickly. And then just 2 weeks later, I was invited to speak at AlienCon in Baltimore. And I lived in Baltimore for many years. My mom is still there, my sister's there, my friends are there. So I thought it was a wonderful place to come out. And I came out for the first time there in a room full of strangers. And everybody was so supportive, and it changed my life. And that's where I realized this is what I want to do. I want to help experiencers. And then things began to happen very quickly. I'm very grateful to have been on some TV shows, Ancient Aliens, The Proof is Out There, Beyond Belief with George Noory. But now there's a new host. Jimmy Church is now the host. And documentaries. I'm in a Canadian documentary and I have a butt double. Also, a few years ago, my best friend was dating somebody who was a writer, and he got a job writing a story for Star Wars. And he said to me, Sevtok, I like your name. I'm going to name a planet after you. And I thought he was kidding. So the story comes out, and in the Star Wars galactic system is the Sevtok star system and the Sevtok planet. I'm in Wikipedia. And one day, I was just sitting there, and I was getting so many texts because evidently Sevtok was mentioned in Andor. I don't watch Andor, but I hear that it's very, very good. Yeah. So I'm very grateful I get to live eternally. I just celebrated the first anniversary of my interview show, Alien Spirit with Sev. I talk with scientists and researchers and experiencers. You can watch on YouTube or on KGRA. I was also the MUFON State Director for North Carolina. Now I'm the Director of Experiencer Contact with the International UFO Bureau. I have a brand new podcast called UFO and ET 101. And I created this because I realized that most people don't even know the basics about UFOs. And we're having congressional hearings on TV, so I think we should know. And the 5th episode, the most recent one, is signs that you may be an ET contactee. I've been in the UFO world for only 8 years. For the past 15 years, I conduct soul purpose sessions with clients around the world. What comes through is interdimensional, multidimensional information about my client, about their purpose, why they're here, how they can manifest it. Best career paths come up. A past life comes up that explains something that's going on now. And also, mental belief patterns, and we all have them, that just keep us from progress or success. And I still do these, and I love doing them. So from my research, talking to experiencers around the world, I've discovered that there are 5 main topics of information given to us. And they are science and innovation, the hybridization program, the future of mankind, spirituality, self-empowerment, and how to strengthen our psychic abilities. So now I'm going to share with you ET cases of mine, experiencers who've come to me looking for help. And I vetted these experiencers. I've known them for years, and they're very reliable. On the western part of North Carolina, there was a father, his name is Johnny, and he went to sleep one night, and he woke up to find himself floating out the window, and he thought he died. And so he's coming to terms with his death. He has a wife, he has kids, and he started to feel really peaceful, and he's just floating, And then all of a sudden, his eyes pop open, and he's standing outside on a grassy field, and he's really confused. And there's a being staring at him. And these are his drawings. And the being was a hat man or a men in black. I've seen the hat man or the men in black, but I've seen the interdimensional version standing at the foot of my bed, and it was really scary. So this one, completely black, like we know, he couldn't see a face, it was just all black. So the hat man leads him to a door on the side of a hill, and the door opens, and Johnny is injected with a green liquid. He feels nothing. And then they lead him into a large oval-shaped room. And the doors at the far end open, and that leads them into a smaller room, and the doors open, and that leads them into another room that looks like a theater, and it has a stage. And sitting there is this being in front of this stage, and he has these blocks of different colors that are threaded on a cord on the side of him, and he was squeezing them. And as he was squeezing them, there were images appearing on the screen. And the being says to Johnny, "I am Pi." Now, Johnny thought that he had died, so he's like, what the hell? Like, is this heaven? Like, this is not what I was expecting. And then Pi asks him, "What do you want to know?" And so Johnny says, he's slightly flippant with his answer. He says, "I want to see into the eyes of God." So a door opens, and the hat man takes him into this rectangular shaped room. And in the middle of it is this rectangular shaped contraption that looks like it has molten metal running through it, and it's taking on different shapes. And there's also smaller dark beings in there working together with the hat man. And they also exhibited no emotion, and they radiated no light. So at the end of that central unit, there's a protruding metal beam, and at the end of that is something that looks like a camera lens or an eye. Now, Johnny thought that this molten metal contraption was an artificial intelligence computer. So since he asked to look into the eyes of God, he was told to look into that camera lens. And then all of a sudden, he saw lots of flashes, one after another, of history and of our civilization. And they included Native Americans making the God's eye, cavemen painting God's eye on cave walls, Puritan settlers sewing quilts with the God's eye pattern, and then many other God's eyes through history. And then he's led outside where there's a military jeep waiting, and there's a soldier in it. And he gets in with the hat man, and they take him back to that grassy field, and they leave him there. And he asks the hat man, "Where are you going?" And he telepathically says, "That's it," and just leaves him there standing. Next thing he knows, Johnny's back in his bed, and he's gasping for air, like he was choked. And he was very distraught. And he saw 3 red dots on his wrist in the shape of a triangle. And he went outside, and he saw that the top of an apple tree by the window was dead. The grass was discolored, and the house showed signs of being heated up on one side. He wanted to sell the house and move away, but he didn't. Instead, he faced it, he contacted me, and today he's at peace with his experience. He's not victimized by it at all. in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a beach town, there's a young lady whose name is India. She goes by Indy. And I first met Indy about 4 years ago when she was grappling with her lifetime of ET contact through the hybridization program. That seems to be the toughest one, especially for women, to accept and understand. She was in severe distress over it. Plus, she's a preacher's daughter, so that added to her anxiety. And her mom had close encounters with UFOs as well. She's had many, many experiences, but here are just a few with her drawings. In 2020, the Greys showed her a giant corn cob, which was colored bright neon green, and the kernels were really big. And they told her that it's a new type of food for humans. It's new nourishment for humans. And she was shown visions of people wearing masks and was told that COVID was a way to enslave humans through fear, and that people are controlling the masses through fear. She was shown visions of major environmental disasters where many people died, where there were famines. And then she was shown a beautiful tropical place. And then right after that, it was on fire, just like the Maui fires from a couple years ago. They showed her Earth from a distance. And the Earth had all these small little white lights twinkling on it, creating a grid. And she was told, when a human awakens, their light twinkles, and it's visible to the ETs. And as the human holds a higher vibration from awakening, they break through the lower energies surrounding Earth, and they become visible. And Indy was told, when the human becomes aware of our reality, of our galactic brothers and sisters, this helps with the upcoming reintegration to the galactic community. It'll create a higher vibration on Earth and a psychic awakening. And as the individual has these realizations, they energetically connect with others, forming a high frequency grid around the planet. And this will benefit Earth as her living beings become less fearful and more loving because of their raised personal frequencies. The Greys told her that every time we dig into Earth to take oil, we are removing Earth's blood, and she needs her blood. And the byproduct of the oil industry has created a dense, dirty cloud around the planet. Indy was given spiritual information and environmental warnings in the hopes of creating change on Earth and in the hopes of helping mankind and saving mankind from extinction and earthly devastation. These are the paintings of a gentleman in Virginia who I'm going to call Ron, and he's been having ET contact since childhood. This is his painting depicting his interaction with the mantids and the Greys aboard a spacecraft. And he says, I saw technology very familiar to that illustrated by science fiction. And he said he felt encouragement and support from them. And the mantid told Ron, your relationship with the mantids is for life and for the mutual benefit of us all. And the mantid held him in a mental field like magnetism, and his thoughts were the mantid's thoughts, and the mantid's thoughts were his thoughts. And there was a conscious interface between our minds to a point beyond my ability to describe. He was fully conscious of the contents of my mind, and I understood about his nature and his purpose. He said they had evolved beyond most human concepts like emotion or self-centered concepts. And he said he could feel the other minds on the crafts as individuals. We were united in a warm, inclusive unity of being. It was a feeling of unity and belonging that I will always remember. Now, if you look at the mantid on the left, he's holding a wand. And I've met with experiencers before who've seen a similar wand. The ones I've met, it's usually the grays that are holding the wand. We're not quite sure what this wand does, but it does remind me of a wand I've seen before. Yeah. Here's an ET event that transformed the contactee so much that she developed the courage to make some very profound changes in her life. Her name is Raptal Vargas, and she lives on the big island of Hawaii. And she began to paint after her ET contact, as Ron did, as many experiencers paint and get very artistic after their contact. She went to bed one evening, and she awoke on a bed that was like in a hospital-type room. And she found herself staring at that black and white contraption on the wall. And then 3 short beings came in, and they were reflective. They were made of reflective material, and even their eyes were reflective. And the beings told her, physical form is insignificant. We are all interconnected. What I believe myself to be is what I become. That changed her life. Her efforts to try and understand this took her on a deep spiritual introspection. She wanted to know why she was on earth, what's her purpose. She says she's still fully trying to understand what this statement means. And this is a gem of spiritual information. And because of it, it helped her get the courage to leave her abusive marriage. So this message of self-empowerment not only helps the individual, but it helps our collective society. And as each of us does the necessary mental and spiritual work to take good care of ourselves, this creates a higher personal frequency, and then this radiates through the collective. And like Ron, Raptal, and other contactees, including me, became a vegetarian, is more empathetic to others. Many people have stopped hunting. And she lives with the awareness that she's connected to all, which has strengthened her respect for all beings, animal or human. And she's more aware of her actions and thoughts, and she tries to act in ways to support humanity. This is from an experiencer, I'll call her Abby, who had ET contact in Izmir, Turkey, when she was a little girl. Her father was in the army, and he was stationed in Izmir. And it was there that she had encounters with small, pale-skinned beings with long, blonde, white hair. And she was taken on their ship, and they taught her how to meditate at age 9. And she says, they taught me how to open my third eye so I could see the truth in this illusory matrix. And they said, the way we educate our children is deplorable. And she was told, we have everything we need, but knowledge is misapplied. And that there are trillions of civilizations scattered throughout our universe, but very few visit Earth. And Abby's experience further demonstrates the spiritual and self-empowering messages the ETs give us. And once again, we're told we live in a matrix, which is an illusion responding to our focus. And once again, the ETs taught her how to strengthen her psychic abilities by teaching her how to meditate and by telepathically communicating with her. And once again, Abby felt safe and nurtured by the ETs. These are three beings that visited Annette Williamson, who lives in England. When she came to me, she had not come out to the world, but since then, she's felt comfortable enough to come out. She's been interviewed by Grant Cameron a couple of times. So when these three beings arrived in the room, she was with her friend Zoe, and so both of them heard them and saw them. And they were stunned. And they asked them, "Who are you? Are you God?" Which is an interesting thing to ask. And they said, "No one divine being, only oneness of all humans, animals, and other beings. Everything is made from carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen." And they got tired of referring to them as the three beings, so they nicknamed them CHON, short for carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And they said, once again, we created this illusion, and the only truth is what one sees through our first eye, and personal perception is an own reality consciousness that layers upon layers, which makes up this reality. So going back to when I was 12, and my space being brother told me that I had to get to work. I didn't know what that meant then, but now I think I understand what that is, because I believe my work is to share these ET contact stories, to share the information that the ETs are giving the humans, to help us to be happier and healthier, and to take care of Earth, and to take care of all the beings on Earth. They're teaching us to focus on unity and love, and how we can heal individually and collectively. If you are an experiencer, you've most probably been given very valuable information, and maybe from fear, you can't see that. But I encourage you to delve into your ET contact, to get the help that you need, because it can really enrich in your life in ways you can't even imagine, as it did mine, because I went from fearing it my whole entire life until 8 years ago. Tonight, I'm hosting an experiencer support group at 5:30. It's only for ET contactees. If you haven't made contact, you can't come. It's a very private, non-judgmental space. If you'd like to share your story, we'd like to hear it. You can get some support and some validation. No pictures are allowed, and you cannot share what's talked about in the group with anybody. So now for my most favorite part of my talk, Q&A. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Thank you. Yes.
How do you become more open to accepting ET communications or experiences, or is there a way to do that?
Do you mind repeating it into the mic?
Oh, sure. How do you become more open to the experience of contact with ET, or being, I guess, available for it, or does it kind of happen by chance?
It doesn't really happen by chance. The biggest issue with the experiencers that I help is the feeling of victimization, which is what I also had. And until that belief is dropped, you can't move forward. We can look at it through our higher selves. Some of us do believe that we live through our higher selves, and that there's a reason for everything that we go through. Maybe our lower selves can't understand that, but there is a good reason that you're having ET contact, or paranormal activity, or supernatural activity. So that's the biggest issue, and that's why I encourage experiencers to reach out to a support group, reach out to me, and I'm not the only one offering help. There's quite a few of us these days. It's really easy to get help. When this was happening to me, it wasn't easy to get help. When this first started happening to me, there was no internet. So I wasn't even aware that other people were even having ET contact. But that's the first thing, is not to view yourself as a victim and to realize that this is actually happening to help you. Thank you.
Sev, thank you for this presentation. It was really
thank you.
great.
Thank you.
In all the time that you've been working with experiencers, have you ever had them share other body marks on them and or implants, or have you talked to Daryl Sims about that? And how can you recognize if perhaps you have an implant? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the X's I had on my tush, I've also, thank you, Katie. I've also had other marks on my body, geometric shapes, those are not uncommon. Scoop marks are not uncommon. I had a scoop mark on my wrist, and one day I looked down and there's a chunk of skin missing from my arm, but there's no blood and there's no scab. So I'm like, how did I lose a chunk of skin and I didn't even feel it and didn't even bleed? And so once again, I'm like, ignore it, like never happened. And it healed over. So that's something that's common. Implants, those are a little tougher. I think I might have one. Usually you can just feel it under your skin and it moves around a little bit. But some people have implants that are much deeper that you only discover in an X-ray. I have known a few people whose implants have been discovered that way. And the doctor is like, well, why do you have that little metal thing in your hip? And the person's like, I have no idea. What is it? And usually the doctor said, I don't know, let's just ignore it. And which doesn't help at all. So there's also a fear in the medical community to deal with this too. Thank you. Carrie.
Oh, there we go. You mentioned that one of the experiencers had heard that we were going to be reconnected with the galactic community. When's that coming?
Don't know. It has a lot to do with us because we're really mean and we like to kill each other and we like to watch ourselves kill each other in movies and we like to read about us killing each other in books. It's a little twisted. We're not nice to animals. We're not nice to old people. We're not nice to kids. And we have to develop a new way of looking at ourselves. We have to understand that we're all connected and that we're a union. And until that happens, a mass landing or a big landing is really going to not help us. It'll probably maybe hurt us because we're not going to be able to understand what they're saying because they're going to be coming from a higher level of awareness, higher level of intelligence, and it's going to go right over our heads. And it could just possibly scare us and cause us to become even more violent. It's very possible that the government is creating such a narrative right now to fool us. There are theories like that. So if you want the ETs to land, you have to work on yourself. It's each individual, one by one. Do the best that you can. Try and understand why you're here. Fulfill your purpose. Be as loving and as kind. And react and act such that we're all connected and that we all care for each other. It's through the individual that the collective is going to change. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you said that there were 5 topics that were often shared with humans, and one of them was the hybridization program. And I guess that was something that you got information on. And you had listed several things that, there are millions of humans, billions of embryos, and that it's going to reseed Earth. Or can you elaborate on that? Because you didn't really go into it. What do you mean by reseed Earth?
Okay. Thank you. A gray told me that we are on the path of annihilating ourselves. It's not too late to turn around, but we've stepped on it. And if we don't make some major changes, we're going to do that. And if we do it, these embryos are going to be used to reseed the planet. And they're very loving embryos. And I was given this message a few years ago. I'm Pollyanna, and I'm very hopeful. And I hope that it's not too late. I hope that we can turn it around, but we're on the path. And that's why, once again, it's very important that each and every single one of us strive to understand our individual purpose, strive to act in a way that we're acting for the good of all, not just for the good of me. Thank you. Did that answer it? Oh, okay.
So, so the hybridization is really, forget about the embryos and whatnot. The hybridization is us going to technology and, using chips, implanting ourselves with chips and tying in with machines.
No, the hybridization program?
Yeah. Or is it the?
No, it's
is
like
it from
DNA, genetic splicing, dicing, and creating other beings. But the one I'm familiar with is the one between the grays and the humans. There could be others. One thing, I've had several lab experiences, and in one of them, there were hybrid babies with human beings. And the hybrid babies were really sick. And they wanted me to heal the hybrid babies. And it seems like there's a hybridization program between the grays and the humans. I've met experiencers who've claimed that they've seen their hybrid children and they're healthy. It seems that when the humans get involved, like when I saw the humans and these sick hybrids, seems like when the humans get involved, things get messed up. So I don't know if there's also some kind of hybridization program that humans are investigating or are experimenting with. I don't know how many hybridization programs are out there.
I was talking more along the lines of the way things are going, where we're getting closer to technology, and technology is a crutch for everybody.
They did not give me information on that, on AI or that kind of technological aspect of it, so far that I can remember. Thank you. Hi.
I apologize for being late.
That's
There's just so
okay.
many good speakers. I had to split the difference.
Thank
and
you.
may have already talked about this, but where do you believe that evil fits into all of this?
Yeah.
What is it to you, and where does it fit, and maybe what does it, just what is it?
Well, from a contactee perspective, perception, point of view is everything. So I thought the grays were evil for most of my life because I didn't understand them. And I was also living my life as a victim. I come from 2 abusive marriages, and I just assumed that I was the victim of it. I was the victim of everything. I didn't take personal responsibility for any of it. It wasn't until my second marriage that I walked away from that I realized I'm the common denominator. I can't be mad at them. I allowed the victimization. We can take that viewpoint when it comes to trying to understand our ET contact. If you come to it from the perspective of victimization, you can see, you might perceive them as being evil, as I did. When you can remove the victimization perception, then you can start to understand the information and the help they're giving you. Now, are there evil beings? Yeah. There are beings of high vibration and there are beings of low vibration. We have decided to label the low ones as evil. It doesn't necessarily mean they're evil. They're just a lower vibration that makes us uncomfortable. Did that answer it?
Well, I was more referring to evil in the world.
Yeah.
Not necessarily whether the beings are evil, but just people that do horrible things, really just to do them.
Yeah.
And where do they fit into this?
Yeah, so evil exists on earth. We live on an earth where there's duality, love on one side, hate and fear on the other side. And as long as we live in this matrix of illusion where we want that duality, entities or people or spirits or souls that are coming in are going to choose to experience either end of that spectrum or somewhere in between. So as long as we want evil on earth, and we obviously do, or it wouldn't exist, there are going to be entities and beings coming in to experience that frequency. So there are some planets, from what I understand, that don't have a dualistic life. It's all love. Maybe there's some that's all hate. And so there are people who believe that maybe one day Earth will lose its duality and it'll be all love. I don't know. But that's what some people are thriving or want to see happen. As long as it exists on Earth, there will be entities that are having that experience because we want it. We want it. It's really kind of weird that it's okay that we're killing each other. It is, or we wouldn't be doing it. And so beings are going to come in to have that experience. Thank you.
Sev, I had a comment I wanted to make. I was very interested in seeing your Chan.
I thought of you when I said it.
Well, what's funny about it is add phosphorus and sulfur to that, and those elements, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur, chomps, that makes up 98% of the mass of all life. Okay? Those are the atoms that make up almost all of our bodies, 98%. So that's interesting. I wanted to just make that observation. The other thing goes to the wand. You talked about the wand, then you showed the the neuralizer from Men in Black, right? My experience with the wand comes from a terrifying encounter, I'm not afraid to say it, with Gray that shoved something with that wand up into my sinus. Oh. And I had to have it extracted by a surgeon in Hartford Hospital. This is all public record. And it disappeared from the hospital a week later out of the pathology lab. And the reason is because I told the surgeon the circumstances. And he laughed and said, "Oh, it wasn't aliens." And I went, "No, of course not." Well, and maybe it was. I don't know. But either way, it disappeared a week later from a pathology lab. I mean, what's the record of things like that disappearing from pathology labs?
Oh, yeah, I've heard about things
Right?
disappearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people are still being threatened.
Yeah.
That's still going on, too.
But the point about the wand was that it was an instrument to insert a tracker or something. Because we'd recognize a big radio collar around our necks. It's like, hey, you got some pizza? Yeah.
I've also talked to experiencers where they said the wand was like lifted and put up like this, and then they don't remember anything afterwards.
Sure. And mine was, the one I saw was a glowing white translucent wand.
Oh.
So
Did you feel it when it went in?
Oh, yeah. I remember everything about the experience. And then when I woke up the next morning after such a terrifying experience, I did what anyone would do. I forgot about it and went to work.
Yeah. That's
Right?
what we do.
It took me 2 years to have the surgeon look up there. And his comment was, "Holy crap," he said. The surgeon said this. Not words you want to hear a surgeon say. He says, "Look what's up there." He goes, "This is like huge. Where'd you get this thing?" And I said, "Well," and I explained the encounter. And he goes, "Well, I think we can take it out." And he took it out. And my first question to him was, "Can I have it? Give it." And he said, "No, we got to send it to pathology." I went, "Okay." And he said, "But call me in a week and I'll let you know." And I'm sure it wasn't aliens, as I said. And a week later I called, and when they answered the phone, I said, "Yeah, hi, it's Mark D'Antonio." "Oh, hold on, doctor has to talk to you." Uh-oh. That's bad news, right? Well, he gets on the phone and says, "Well, I'm sure it's benign, nothing to worry about." I said, "Oh, you didn't get a report yet?"
Yeah.
And his response was, "Well, they seem to have lost it."
Yeah.
And his exact words, the first time in 40 years of my practice that we lost something in pathology. Come on. You
I
all
wish
know.
there was a way that we could know how many doctors have discovered implants and how many of them have disappeared. but I don't think they want to talk about it. Thank you. Anniversary right here, please. Oh, you're next.
Just a really quick question. What do you think is MILAB agenda?
I call it MILAB because Grant Cameron said it's military abductions, not military abductions, so that's why I call it MILAB. I believe it's a debriefing, and I believe, I don't know if it's the government, I don't know who it is. I'm just going to say the government, I don't know. They know who's making contact, they know who's getting information, and they're debriefed. Not only are we debriefed, we're asked to do certain things. And if we don't do them, we're tortured. And these certain things often are psychic in nature. So actually, my MILAB experiences are harder to talk about than my ET contact. I haven't talked about all of them publicly. The one that was absolutely horrible was so horrible that I don't feel comfortable talking about it publicly yet. I think one time I might have talked about it on a podcast. It also sounds crazy. But I don't know why they have to be so mean and so rude, and why they have to hurt us, and why they have to torture us for this information. I don't know why it has to work that way. Some of us will give up the information if you're nice. We will. But it's an area that I would like to see more research into, but it's a scary area. And once again, I don't know who's doing it. I don't know who's doing the debriefing. Thank you. She's next, and then you, Seth.
Thank you. I wanted to say I think it's lovely that you were chosen to teach us, to share
Thank
with
you.
us. Yeah. And I think you were chosen. And I wanted to ask you if you have some sense about the marks that were left on you, like how do you perceive that as, what do you think that means? Do you have any feeling about why they would mark you with
Are you talking specifically the X marks?
the X marks on your butt? And did they heal like a burn, or are they still?
No, they
scarred?
went away.
They just disappeared.
Yeah, they just disappeared.
Did they continue to hurt after?
None of my marks on my body have ever hurt. Okay, so this is my theory on why they put 2 red X marks on my tush. I hadn't come out yet. I was still in deep fear about everything that was going on. And the Greys had been contacting me for a long time, and I was completely ignoring them. I was ignoring all the marks on my body. I was ignoring the strange lights in the hallway. I was ignoring the beings on my bed, in my bed. I was ignoring everything. And so I just like to joke that, one Grey said to the other Grey, how the hell are we going to get her attention? And the other Grey says, let's put a red X mark on her ass. And it worked. It got my attention. It got my attention, made me wake up and realize. And so that's why I'm talking about it. I think there's another aspect too, in that when this happened, I had begun a deep introspection myself to become the most authentic version of myself that I could possibly be. That's why my hair is silver. And I just wanted to know the truth about myself and about everything. And this often happens after ET contact, this desire to know the truth about who you are and who we are. And so that part of the body houses Kundalini energy. So it could well be that Kundalini was activated. And as that energy rises through your body, you have this undeniable desire to know the truth about everything. So that's why I think it happened. Thank you.
Thank you.
Seth.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
All right, so there's a duality in this universe, and the greatest we're all evolving organisms, and when you complain about there being, angry people in the world and good people in the world, well, the greatest teacher for us spiritually is to have pain and suffering. It's not the positive events in our life. So people who give up or volunteer to have very difficult lives are the people who advance the most spiritually. So there is a need for both sides, even though, we don't want to put ourselves in a victimhood situation, and we don't want to have a repetition of victimhood in our lives. But having negative experiences really advance us the most spiritually in our lives.
Thank
So
you.
so it is meant to be the way it is, not the way we want it to be, except how we vision it for ourselves.
Thank you.
Let me go next.
Right here. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Going back to the mill lab, are the ETs there sometimes with personal experience or what other people have told you?
Yes. Often there are other entities there, usually the Greys. Do you want to talk to that? The Millab experience and other entities being, other beings, ETs being there? Do you have anything to say about that?
Because we do hear that from a lot of experiencers that they have some trauma, and I think that plays a role in some of the awakening, just like you so it touched a nerve. But as far as the multiple ETs, we hear that in Travis Walton, 1975, and so many experiencers, even at Rocky Mountain Ranch. In the APRO files, there was this like AI type of being and the tall Nordic types. And what came through in the regression from Dr. Leo Sprinkle is that they were in conflict with one another. So I believe there's, gosh, we've heard everywhere from 200 different races that have visited the earth to 70 to above 200. So it varies, right? And I feel like there might be a battle towards, or a curiosity of what humanity is going to do, whether we're going to go way of Neuralink and AI and really go down this robotic path, or if we're going to hold on to our precious consciousness and raise that way. And maybe they're curious about, because we're at this is an interesting time to be alive right now. We're advancing so quickly. And so I just feel like there's multiple races out there, and they may be divided in those two categories. We hear it with the Greys. You mentioned it, Sev. We have these little robotic guys and tubey guys and these guys. So I hope is that kind of what you were wanting me to speak about?
The other ETs there.
Yeah.
Also, if you remember the very first case I was showing you about Johnny, who was lifted through his bedroom window, and that molten metal thing in the middle of that room, and how he thought that was an artificial intelligence computer working with the Hat Man, which is not good news. Any other questions? Hi, thank you.
Hi, I don't know if you were in the car when I talked about being afraid of the dark and had that. As a child, I had a really vivid dream of a natural fear of the dark, and I remember going up the stairs of my house at about 7 years old, and then the lights went out, and I leapt down the stairs, and this long, skinny, kind of weird hand pulled me back into the darkness, and I woke up.
Wow.
But after hearing your great speech here, it reminded me of when I was about 13 or 14. I noticed I had in my left ankle, it felt like a piece of metal that I could move around. And I hadn't remembered that until I heard your talk today. And so I used to kind of push it back and forth, and finally went to the doctor, and he was baffled by it. He goes, "Did you have an injury here?" And I'm, "No, it just appeared." And he set me on a table on my stomach and put a mirror up so I could watch the operation. And I remember when he got it, he had to take like a wire cutter because it was hardwired into my nervous system, I think. And I remember it was a white thread, but he had to cut both ends of it. And then afterwards, he had it on a white napkin, and he was taking a scalpel, and he couldn't cut it. And I had forgotten all of this. and he couldn't cut it. And of course, I wasn't into ufology then, and so I didn't think about it. I never figured out, I never heard about what it was, but it made me want to ask the question of, maybe there's a lot of people that have had an experience, but they're just not recalling it. And I'm wondering why some people might not recall it. And is it a suppression, or is the only way to get to it regressive hypnosis, or what's the answer for people that maybe had something like what happened to me, but I don't recall anything?
Thank you. It's not uncommon to be afraid of the dark if you're an experiencer. I was afraid of the dark for most of my life. Now, when I walk through the dark, I like to walk with my eyes open, because I'm like, if you're here, I want to see you. But it's a lot of experiences are afraid of the dark. They also sleep with the lights on, or they sleep with the TV on. Even if they have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, they don't want to get out of the bed. They do not want to walk to the bedroom. As far as ET contactees having conscious memory of what happened, there are millions of people having ET contact, and most of it's happening in a multidimensional fashion. That's really the easiest way if you want to make contact. Just pop your focus into the other dimensions where there's other beings. Our consciousness is like a playground, and all beings that have a consciousness, we're all playing on the same playground. So if you enter that playground, you can enter it through meditation and then come in contact with a variety of beings. Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering if you or other experiencers sounds like a lot of the experiences I've heard of are like kind of passive, like a dreamlike observer type experience versus more of a lucid, where the experiencer has more agency and is able to actually change the situation, ask questions, maybe interrogate the beings that they're there, not interrogate, but ask them questions and get information, maybe even practical information and knowledge. And wondering if that's something that comes up, or is it generally a passive observing type experience?
It's usually passive because the person is scared to death and they think that they're not in control. They think they are in control. That's the main reason. If you're an experiencer that it happens more than once, more than twice, I can't say that you might get comfortable with it, but maybe you might be able to enter a state where you can engage and not view it through the lens of victimization. That's something that some experiencers have taught themselves to do, so that it's more engaged with the other beings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Early in your presentation, you had
Hi.
images of, or you said that the tall gray walked in, and you said, this is the tall gray and what their abilities are. And then a medium-sized gray walked in, and you said that was sort of a hybrid. What was it hybrid with? And then, of course, you said there was a third one that came in, and you said, those aren't the hybrids that you're talking about when you're talking about this hybridization program of humans and grays.
No.
So which of the grays would be hybrid with humans? The tall gray?
No, none of those. So the three that were brought into the room were not hybrids of humans.
Okay, but they were some sort of hybrid of each other?
Yes, and with each one there was sentience lost. So the original was the really tall one, and they've been experiencers who've seen the really, really tall ones. Most experiencers see the tiny robotic ones.
So are they like breeding the tall grays with human embryos to get, is that the reseeding that they're talking about to fix?
That's what I was told.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you.
I'm just going to plug myself. If anybody would like a regression, I'm a quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner. I've done regressions for ET Contact So if anybody's interested, you
Thank
can always
you.
talk to me. I don't have any cards with me because I left them at home, but yeah.
You're in Colorado?
I'm in the Denver metro area and I only do it in
Fantastic.
person, so
Very
there's
good.
no online at all.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. Have you done any?
I have.
Oh, and how'd they come out? Good?
Good, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Do you suggest that the person needs to be ready? And how does the person know if they are ready?
they know they're ready, if they're
Mm-hmm.
ready or not. They know, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't push it. They just come to me and, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that it helps them heal?
I do. I do believe that. But also, for some reason, I don't always remember how our sessions went later on after we discuss it. It's like it's for them, it's not for me.
Right.
And so it kind of just goes. But yes, I've had some really good success. so.
Okay, good. Thank you for doing that.
bet.
Thank you for telling us. Any other questions? No. Okay. Well, I enjoyed this so much. Thank you for being so engaged. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.